let's go deep on the process of converting a local business into a location independent business that you manage remotely. Tell me about maybe your process of doing this and what advice you would give to someone who's thinking about doing this.
Yeah. So the first thing to start with, and we already touched on, is the limiting belief, right? So potentially through my story, you might realize that you're able to take your local business, which you previously thought cannot be location independent. Thing that can help with that is, first of all, looking for other businesses that are in your industry or niche. And even if it's like a nightclub or a bar or a restaurant, you can find examples of owners that are not on site, that have a really strong staff that's managing things, and they're in Europe or Alaska or Asia most of the year. So I would say that's the place to start with. And then in terms of my own story, it kind of happened very naturally. I was first working in the business, and then I hired a couple of employees, and I was really focusing on growing the business and doing all these things. And then I decided by necessity, pretty much, this business hasn't taken off to the level that I wanted it to. And I wanted to work on a startup in Israel. So I moved to Israel for a year, and that was the catalyst to say, okay, now I'm running this business completely remote. And then it evolved, and I came back to the States and didn't really want to be involved in the day-to-day, and brought in a partner that took on the operation. So I guess that's a second piece that can be helpful, is in a business that's very operational, and a business that has vans and tools and equipment, or like a restaurant, it does help to have someone that you trust be the one in person on site, so you can be the one who's going around the world and kind of watching things from afar. And there are many people who want to live that life. My business partner, he loves that. He loves the professional aspects of the job. He loves working with the vans and equipment and all of those things. So it's been a good fit for us.
Yeah, that seems like a very, very key piece, because we're in Barbados, right? And we're going off surfing in the middle of the day, and we're off the grid for 3.5 hours. Obviously, I observed it firsthand. You're very out of the operational phase. Like, you are not, you're not in the day-to-day operations. You're not, as far as what I saw, you're not taking customer calls. Like, you're not in the weeds. So you're very much out of the weeds, thinking strategically, high level, with other people in the weeds and managing the process. It seems like, I imagine for a lot of people, the getting out of the weeds and having someone else take over their role in the weeds that they trust is a really key step. So talk to me about that, because it seems like you've gone through that process now multiple times. You have the cleaning business, you have other locksmith businesses. Tell me about hiring and managing that role, and what you've learned and what you would tell someone else who's trying to do that.
Yeah. So I would say the biggest challenge that we have as business owners who started the business is we're so attached to everything that's going on in the business. And we also tend to have this belief that only I can do this job and do it well. And that is the number one obstacle to releasing control and letting other people do this, even if there is a certain training period, or a period where they are the ones responsible and they're going to make mistakes and they're going to fuck things up. But over the long term, they're going to learn these things. And ideally, they're also going to be doing these things better than you could, because they're going to wear less hats than the business owner that does everything, or they have talents in areas that we don't have talent. So it went from being afraid to delegate, thinking I can only be the one who does this and does this well, to now I'm actually very happy to delegate. And I have many employees in the businesses that do things way better than I ever did, because they're better at it than me.
So big mindset shift for you there.
Yes, and this is something every business owner I talk to who went through this process runs into these areas where there are certain things. Let's say in my digital marketing agency, I thought that in terms of building the site and making the copy and the design and the copywriting, I thought no one can do this better than me. This is like my magic. And then I hired someone who's great, a wonderful designer, and my websites that I designed looked like shit compared to the ones that he designed.
Interesting. That's a powerful realization.
So the advice would be, every time, let's say you want to bring someone, you want to delegate, you want to create more freedom for yourself, and you have the thought come up like, oh, I can't delegate this. try. Delegate it anyway.
What resources would you recommend to someone who's navigating this journey, whether it be a book, whether it be a podcast? I mean, are there specific things that really helped you that you think could help someone else?
Yeah, so the couple of books that I would recommend, one of them is called The E-Myth Revisited. I think it's by Michael Gerber. And the other one is Work the System by, I think his last name is Carpenter, Sam Carpenter or something like that. And what those books really help with is the mindset piece. Both of these authors went through this process themselves and helped thousands of businesses do the same. And then you really realize, oh, my business isn't special. This is how it can be done. I get, like we talked about with limiting beliefs, I get almost a manual on how can I get the same results that these people have achieved.
That's some great stuff. I imagine that this topic is going to become increasingly more popular in coming years, like just with the rise of remote work and more people wanting to be a part of that and wanting to live wherever they want. But I could very much understand, and I've seen it firsthand with friends where they have a physical business and they're kind of trapped in the operations and in the day-to-day, and they haven't been able to step out. So that is gold.
One of the key parts that I recommend for local business owners who want to go remote is to be prepared for a short to medium term time when they're going to be doing more work and making less money because the business is not going to run as well as you do with new employees that you're delegating to, and it's totally worth it. So at least for me, it's always been worth it. Freedom has been the number one priority, and I'm willing to make less money and work harder in a short to medium term in order to win this freedom to be location independent and to have a lot of freedom for the business.